like to welcome you, Matt.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
We got you on because I know you've run as independents.
Yep.
You've worked with the Liberals. You've done blah, blah, blah. You're pretty much Mr. Everywhere man.
Yeah, I've had a lot of fun. You know, I was born in Greystanes, right? I just go all the way back, and
Can I
started a
interrupt
business.
you?
Yeah, go for your life.
Willow Street, Greystanes.
Oh yeah, I was Wayland's Road. Look at that.
There you go.
Yeah,
So
no, it's beautiful.
Oh, it's a lovely.
Beautiful, mate. Love it. So, built a business, software company. You know, national sort of presence down in New Zealand as well. And then I was crazy enough to get involved in politics, and you know, we can because you've got to be a bit mad. And tried to fix one of the major parties, the Liberals, for my sins I was expelled because I was trying to get the members of the party, to have a say in policy and in who represented them. And I think if they could go back in time now, instead of expelling me, they would have listened, right? Because you've got to listen to the members because we're just so poorly served. So
It's probably a good idea, isn't it?
Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, you know, the Australian people are poorly served right now by the people who
Absolutely.
sit in Parliament. Yeah? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I think there's a lot of disillusionment in there about our politicians. They've people are starting to wake up.
Yeah, because they're
believe.
self-serving. They're not there for the people.
That's right, and they're saying, and hopefully through our show and people like yourself, Matt, and you know that we're highlighting these inefficiencies that they have, and we're saying, people, you deserve better. We deserve better. Because we're paying them. Don't forget, we pay them.
I think they've lost sight of that, though.
Yeah, well, that's our job to tell them.
Yeah, I think they've lost sight of a lot of things. But what they don't seem to have lost sight of, what they seem to have their eyes focused on, is the benefits to them of being in Parliament.
Absolutely.
And the things they can do for their mates. It feels to me like it's more about what they can do for those on the inside than what they can do for the people that, you know, you'd rightly say are the shareholders in the organisation that is Australia.
Yep.
And they seem to be ignoring us, you know, the taxpayers, the people who do the work, the people who hold the place up, people who are struggling to just get by at the moment. And
look, you're right.
And I think it's been both major parties.
Mm-hmm.
I think the fact that both have fallen short in reading the room.
Yep.
It's given rise to more minor parties like One Nation.
Yep.
Because people want a party that's going to stand for the people, and they don't feel generally that is happening now.
And
that's right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't you, with One Nation, weren't you somewhere involved at one point?
No, independent. I ran as an independent the last election.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
What do you think of the current One Nation rise from the ashes, I guess?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing with One Nation is an Australian people that have had a lot of experience with the red team and the blue team, the Labor Party and the Liberal Party. They know that, you know, if we bring Labor back, there's going to be a lot of pain and more. But we're in pain. We're in pain right now. And everything that the Labor Party seem to set out to achieve, they always seem to achieve the exact opposite. So if they say they're going to have a bill that, you know, made things stand up, that all fall down.
Yeah.
It's just they're doing the opposite, and we know that. We're feeling that pain. We're never going to change the tax system. Change the tax system. Everything's to see. So we know that. And the problem with the blue team, the Libs, is, well, who are they? What do they stand for? The problem that I think most people now can agree that, you know, when one of them stands up and says something, within a few days, somebody else has stood up from in that organisation and said something completely different. And then somebody else stands up and says the complete opposite. So the average person out there trying to make sense of what to do looks at the orange team at One Nation and says, well, you're not them. So that's probably good, right? That's the first thing. And you know they're there. They're in the place, and they've been consistent. You keep hearing about consistency. They're consistent. And whether you love or you loathe all of the things they talk about, they're consistent. And they're not the other two. And that is
That's the
become
thing.
more and more.
That's the vehicle
That's the vehicle.
That's the
seen them
thing.
rise to the top.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think too,
yeah.
with the Liberals, they've been, in my humble opinion, possibly one of the worst in opposition to this government, holding them to account. They've been too busy, distracted party factions and,
Yep.
and infighting to actually be a functional opposition and really it would be easy
Yep.
to poke holes in what's happening at the moment with the government, and they've just literally just sat back.
Yeah, I think the big problem with the Liberals was, they were tepid. They were sort of lukewarm
Yes.
at the last election. I think they, for whatever they were trying to say, I don't think they said it. I don't think anybody knew what they were trying to say, and that's why it went backwards. Then they put Susan Ley in there, and she was there just that little bit too long, I think, and now there's a big lack of trust. So. Lack of trust.
I think shoveling, what do they say? Shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic. It's not a good look politically. Question. You ran against Chris Bowen in the last federal election for McMahon. What was your experience like as an independent candidate, and do you think the system is designed to make it difficult for independents to run?
Yeah, look, I had a blast running. I mean, it's hard, right? It's a lot of work. It's early starts. It's late nights. It's 7 days a week. It's a vocation. It's not a job. So it was good fun. Met some awesome people. Got to know some really cool people who just want to see Australia back to where we,
And I guess it's getting like grassroots feedback on the ground.
Unbelievable.
You're getting unfiltered feedback from people in the community,
Yep.
and they don't hold back when they've got something on their mind.
Yeah, that's right. Well, my favourite place to stand, really, and it was. We spent a lot of time there. Was out the front of the West Point there in Blacktown. Between the West Point and the train station, and you really do get a really good sense of people.
And what was the most common theme that you were hearing during that time?
Oh, look, it had to be housing, and it still is. I still hear it. It's housing, and then after, and it's young people can't afford to get a house, can't buy a house, struggle to rent a house. People in that midlife are, same thing, struggling to keep the house, struggling. And the grandparents are worried about their kids and their grandkids being able to get or buy a house. So that's the first thing. And then it goes on, the very next thing is the price of the basics, food and electricity. It's those basics, right?
The groceries.
And it's killing people. And to some extent, the groceries are a big one. Fuel's a big one.
Yep.
So it's those basics that were really...
Well, I guess the fuel feeds the grocery price hike.
Because it's different.
They've got to pass it on. So
fuel and energy are in everything. So it's in the cost of a new home. It's in the cost of food. It's in the cost of services. It's in the cost of transport. It's in the cost of everything. So as the cost of fuel and energy go up, so do the costs of other things, alongside all the other inflation drivers, right? But, we can sit there and get boring about economics, but in terms of how difficult it is to run as an independent, I think that's an important
I'd
thing.
like to know that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very difficult. I mean, for me, I was part of a major party organisation. I never really wanted to be in Parliament. That wasn't what I wanted to do. I just wanted to get good people into Parliament. And then I found that this whole mess was a mess. So I, again, went into it. And I'm happy I was an independent because I'm not connected to their silly ideas. And I don't like many of them anymore. But it's hard because money's a problem for most people who run. And I'm pretty blessed. I've worked hard. I've funded in a lot of what I did. But most people don't have the ability to finance their own campaigns. They've made it very, very hard. So late last year, the last term of the last government, so early last year was it the year before even now, whenever it was, early last year, they changed the law to make it harder for people to raise funds.
They did.
For campaigning, right? So but I don't mind disclosure. I like the idea that people putting money in, it gets disclosed. That's fine.
Yep.
My issue is when they start restricting it, what they're basically saying is if you're not rich, if you're not a wealthy person, or you're not part of one of these major organisations, you can't run. And look, some of the best and brightest in this country aren't rich people. Some of the people who care the most and have had the real world life experience that we want to see in Parliament aren't already rich, don't have rich mates. In fact, sometimes that doesn't help at all, right?
Yeah, I think it makes them insulated
Yes.
from real life.
It's a bubble. It's a bubble. It's a big ivory tower, and they live in it, and and there's no doubt in my mind that it's made difficult specifically to protect the two major parties who are absolutely petrified right now because they know that the public is starting to have enough. And they can hear the almighty roar coming through each election. Yeah. More votes are going away from the major parties. And that's bothering them.
Matt, I want to ask you a question. And it's an interesting one because we also ran as independents.
Yes.
And what we found were people saying to us, I like what you say and I like what you... But you're just an independent. What are you going to do? What happens?
Yeah, how effective will you be?
How effective will you be? And I've said to them, we are more effective than you could imagine. And I'd like your viewpoints on what I'm about to say is that if we had enough independents elected, they're the ones that represent you. They've got no big money over the top of them. They haven't got people in their ears and playing with the strings to pull the strings.
Right.
They only have one group of people to satisfy. That's their electorate.
Yep.
And I've said, please believe that that is the way an independent works. Get them into the parliament and they're going to have power. Now, the more independents could be that they then have the balances of power.
Yeah, that's right.
Which they don't want because,
which the big parties don't want that.
That's right.
Now, who better to represent your personal vote than your own independent running? I'm just asking that question. What do you think about that?
I think that's right. Look, I think I think that people that are worried about independence, the first thing I'd say is, well, it couldn't be worse than the people that we've got, could it? I mean, if you've got people that are bouncing in on brand, right? And these brands aren't doing what they used to do. Once upon a time, let's say you go to McDonald's. A lot of people go to McDonald's not because the food is magnificent. I'm not going to slander it, but it's certainly not like, it's not Michelin starred, high end food, but it's consistent. And you know what you're going to get. When you get this burger, it's going to taste like that burger. And as you know, I think it was in Willy Wonka, the snozberries taste like snozberries, right? But the problem with the major political parties now is they're not doing the quality assurance that they used to do. I don't believe that Labor's the party for people who have jobs and are working any more than the unions are there to represent them. And I don't believe that the Liberal Party is a party of small business anymore. I believe they're both the party of their own vested interests and their own selves and their own mates. And that's fantastic.
And the puppet masters
and
at the top.
And the people in the shadows that you don't see.
The factions.
Right? The factions and all these people.
Yes,
and, they're it's a mess. But then, so it couldn't be worse than that, having an independent. I think it's probably better. And if the parliament was made up of independents, it couldn't be worse than a parliament made up of one or two parties that just expect your vote because they're already there and they can't win an election if they didn't have their brand on them.
And the other thing is that when you look at this and you talk to other independents, when you ask them, their people had the same sort of major issues, cost of living, and so all of a sudden they might be independents for their electorate, but then they get into Parliament, they've got common interests.
Correct.
So all of a sudden they are acting as a party, all aimed at one thing, and that is improving those areas.
That's right. And
so it is so they're independents working together.
Yeah, and I think genuine,
that's the big difference.
True independents, not independents that are funded by one lobby or another.
Right.
I was going to bring that up because I think what they've done, the two major parties have created the optics that independents are not what they seem, and it's created suspicion amongst voters.
Yep.
And so people are like,
point.
okay, well, are you really independent or are you kind of like a shop front for a major party? And I think that has certainly created a bit of cynicism out there.
Yeah.
So, like, how do you think we could overcome something like that?
I think, and this is one of the other challenges about being an independent, getting coverage is very, very, very difficult.
Very, yes.
So, doing things like, one of the great politicians in Australia's history was on radio every week, right? And that's what he did. And he built, quite a big organisation off the back of that, right? At the end of the day, getting out there, doing this radio work, getting out on the socials, and getting to people to see you and who you are. And you've got to give a lot of yourself, and it's hard, and it sucks. It really does, because I think we all would rather be private, right? We'd all rather not be known and not walk down the street and be seen. But you've got to give, if you want to fix Australia, and the Anzacs gave a lot.
They gave their lives.
They gave a lot, right? They gave more than what I'm being asked to give, or what you might be being asked to give in your privacy. Yeah. But you've got to give yourself, and you've got to show as much of yourself, your true self.
Be real.
That's right. Authenticity is a problem. We've got this big authenticity
Absolutely.
gap.
That's actually, we noticed when we were campaigning as independents as well, that was a recurring theme, that people felt that we were authentic. We were knocking on doors. We got invited in to share meals with people, and they said, we've never had a politician come to our door and be authentic.
Because you're not a politician.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of independence.
That's the difference.
Right?
Yep.
And my last part of this, of Burnsie's question is, what about policies? You see, what we had comments, both Burnsie and I, was that we openly offered our policies and told people, go and have a look at them and come back to us. Because they spelled out very clearly what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, when it could happen, and what will it benefit the people by. That's how a business operates, and we chose to look at it that way. And people were coming back, truly, and it's why, even with a short run into the polls, we certainly got pretty good support, right? Not enough to, whatever, but we got good support. What do you believe, if giving people real answers, that is, that's what it's going to cost, that's what it'll benefit you by, and we'll do it by then, what do you believe?
Robbo, let's let Matt think about that in the next song, and we'll come back to it if that's okay. Give you time to ruminate.
We asked you that, I gave you those three topics or same points. What's your reaction to that? What was the...
Well, look, to me, I think it's just about common sense, isn't it? I mean,
policy,
you've got to have policies, firstly, that connect to reality, know, and that put people, the Australian people in particular, at the front and the centre. And I think the reason we're seeing the major parties running around doing the sorts of things that they're doing, jumping through hoops, is because they kind of made the mess we're in, right, by the policy settings. And they like the policy settings. If they didn't like the policy settings that we have that are causing all these problems, they wouldn't have set the policies that way. So they deny having had a partner, but they've all done it. It's successive governments. It's not one side or the other, it's both. They've been doing this. And they're not being totally upfront with the people, I don't think, about what it is they're intending to achieve. I don't know what they're intending to achieve, but you've got to put basic, simple, common sense policies forward. I don't think the average person in the electorate has a lot of time, because it's just hard to keep up with modern life, and it's hard to keep a roof, and it's hard to get the food, and it's hard to put the shoes on the kids and the books for school and all this stuff. So it takes a lot of time. So it's got to be simple. You've got to have some simple ideas. I don't think we have to change very much to make the country a lot better. I do think that there are some really simple things we could do, and I think if you've got a clear mind for that, and you have them spelled out very simply, and I think you need to, and you give people a sense of who you are, then there is absolutely a way to cut through.
Okay.
I think one of the first things they should do is look at the tax system. And reel back some of the decisions that they've made that affect a huge demographic of people.
Yep.
And then of course, small businesses going out of business at a rate of knots. I think I read the other day 14 a day going out of business. Now these are like mum and dad businesses, cafes, your local, bakery, things like that. I think once you start eroding small business, then naturally you take out competition.
Yep.
So prices go up with the majors.
That's right. And look, I've been making software for 2002, I think. So it's about 24 years we've been making software, and it's targeted at and it works with and keeps the cost of housing down because it's targeted at the building industry. We make software for residential builders, and in all the years that I've been doing that, I've never seen it quite like this. 40% or some 40% of builders have gone broke.
Yeah.
Over the last 3 or so years, and that's in a housing shortage. And that's due mostly to government policy settings, whether they be the taxation settings or some of the other settings, and the amount of money that they're borrowing, spending, and all the money that they're pouring into their inverted commas, what they call the care economy, which actually doesn't care about anyone. And that's, competing for labour and competing for this and competing for that. So home building businesses are going broke in a housing shortage. We don't make enough houses as it is. It's getting harder and harder to get houses through planning. It's getting harder and harder to get housing through the tax system. People can't afford to build, and it's getting to the point now where I think it's $1.5 million to get a house and land package in Sydney, and some of these blocks now are smaller than some of the apartments, but some of these blocks are tiny. It's about $1.5 million is the average price. How does a young family, how do young people, how does anyone afford $1.5 million?
Well, I heard someone say the other day that a friend of theirs and their partner pay $7,000. Don't quote me, but I think it was $7,000 a month on their mortgage, and they put off having children because they both need to work and they just can't afford for one person not to work or to take time off. Then that has a flow-on effect to what we talked about, which is the family unit.
Yeah.
Kids or parents become dependent on childcare. It's just a vicious cycle.
There's another issue that with this problem comes loss of wages, loss of jobs, right?
And dignity.
Well, it's also that, but the real cold hard facts are what we don't want to see in this country is like the global financial crisis that we had not that many years ago, I know very much about because it hurt me, was we had people just walking out of their homes because they couldn't afford, in the States this was, just walked out because they couldn't afford the mortgage.
That's right.
Now, those sort of things shock me, and it should shock the people listening, that the time for talking now, I think, is over.
Well and truly.
Do you agree, Matt?
Well and truly.
I think we've now really, people, you really got to make some real hard decisions. You've got to insist on knowing what they're going to do to fix it now, not in the next 2 years. Now, what can you do? And what Burnsie said and what you've been saying, I agree.
I think
that Australia is now in a situation where we probably have some time to fix some of the problems that they've caused, right? Like maybe it's a couple of years, maybe it's 5 or 6 years, maybe it's longer. Look, it could be. I think we've got some big problems. You can't just get new power plants just at a moment's notice. We need more electricity in this country. And
we've decommissioned and closed down that many power plants.
That's right. So it's going to take time to reset the thing. But we need to be extracting and refining our own liquid fuels. We've stopped doing that. We used to do that. We've stopped. We need to start being able to make things in Australia again. We're too reliant on thin supply chains, that we're at the tail end of all these supply chains, and all of these little things matter. We've got too many people doing jobs, invoicing, say, I don't know, the NDIS for services nobody really knows. The government's not even looking, and borrowing all this money. These things are going to take some time to fix, right? They're going to take some time to fix, and that's from when we start fixing them. And we're still making them worse. So the urgency is building, and people are feeling it. It's like standing next to a fireplace.
It's ominous.
That's getting out of control. You can feel the heat on your face. You think, gee, if that breaks out of the fireplace, it might burn the house down. House is on fire.
Matt, we reported 2.6 million public servants work in this country. 2.6 million. Over 10, nearly 10% of our population.
That's right.
And an increase of 20-something% since 2022.
2022. Massive. You know, you asked about that. Maybe what they could do is say, from the top down, not bottom up. Obviously, when I've looked at some of these, and we have, they're top heavy. Want to answer to someone, how about the politicians, someone, come out and say, we will immediately, in government, review all of our senior management areas that are top heavy, and we will start clearing dead wood.
I think that's fair. I think there's a couple of options in that space too. If I could be so bold.
It's an opening up for you.
Thank you. We have Robert. We have councils, we have state governments, and we have federal governments. Now, even if you look at something like planning, the planning instruments at a local level, a state level, and a federal level, they sometimes contradict each other to the point where if you switch one of the switches on, the other one goes off. So you almost can't get things through planning, because that's why it's so hard to get anything built, because they're all contradicting. Now, all of those contradictions cost us money because there's bureaucracy at each level, right, overlapped, fighting each other. It's like those cop shows, the FBI's just turned up, no, and the local police are here and they're all fighting. It's what it's like.
It's so true. It's so true.
Everyone's fighting for jurisdiction.
Just get on with it.
It's ridiculous. And there's too many regulations. So at the back end, we've got, if you drive past a suburb that's been around since the 90s, right, there was a planning code back then. Since then, 3 million things have changed in the planning codes. It's become harder, more complicated, more difficult. Those houses from the 90s didn't fall down. There wasn't anything wrong with them. But all these extra levels of nonsense you have to go through and flaming hoops you have to jump through, right? There's people at the other end of this with a big rubber stamp saying computer says no, bang. Computer says no, bang, right? And they're jobs that we probably don't need to have being done. So maybe some deregulation. Sensible.
Yes.
You don't want to turn off. You don't want to.
Safety is paramount.
Correct. You don't want to be in a situation where you say, well, if we didn't have, a speed limit, we wouldn't have to have police. Well, that's probably true, but it's also ridiculous.
Yes.
So
it's common sense.
Correct. But there are so many common sense areas where we could peel things back and get rid of some of the bureaucracy, which has the benefit of putting those people who currently work in the bureaucracy into real jobs that actually help people do stuff.
Yes.
Right? And, this is really important. So I think it's about simplifying. We've got too much complexity. It's about simplifying some of the rules. It's about, cutting back some of the needless bureaucracy, because I remember looking into this myself, 2.6 million people in the public service, and that's not all front-facing. Like, nobody says we should have less nurses. We should have more nurses.
Absolutely.
We should have more police. We should have more doctors. We should have more teachers.
But that's not where they are they?
That's right. They're in the planning department, and they're over here, and they're over there, and they're over there, and they're hiding under the rock somewhere in some other department that nobody even knows exists.
Yes.
And they hope nobody finds out.
Yes.
Because we'd probably close it, right? There's too much of that going on. So we need to fix that. And then maybe we can reallocate that money, because the problem is when 2.6 million people have government jobs, somebody's got to carry that.
And that's the people.
That's right. So taxes, at the moment, income taxes and company taxes, I think equal the wages of these public servants. And then on top of that, you've got the NDIS. On top of that, you've got, the military. We want to have a military, right? A defence force. And then you've also got your state police forces and all of these other organisations that we really do need to have in place. And, I just think, you have to work pretty hard to make it this bad. Maybe if we work less hard on making things bad, it'd be easier.
Listen, maybe to wrap this up, because we've got a few things to... just as an example of what what you've just been talking about, just the NDIS, we did our own... They have nearly 20 general managers. General managers. And under each of those, they have what they call assistant general managers. And then there's sectional. So these are so top heavy. It's turned into a spinning top, right? It's ridiculous. So what has to happen is you've got to concertina that up and say no business. They have a CEO and possibly 5 directors, and then maybe state managers, which are the state ministers. That's it.
Simplify it.
Common
Simplify.
sense.
Simplify.
Look, if we
That's
can
it.
run
And you'd save
Medicare,
millions,
right?
billions.
Look at Medicare. Medicare is the health system that this country's come to rely on over decades. And Albanese, every time he's going to lose something in the polls, he stands up and it's as if he invented it, right? And he didn't. And now there's gaps and he pretends they don't exist. But the Medicare system is a system that has served the country pretty well. I think there's opportunities for improvements, but it's certainly served the country pretty well. Costs a percentage of the NDIS, right? And everybody has access to it and nearly everybody uses it in some way or another. Surely, whoever's running Medicare could take over the NDIS and do a better
That's
job.
exactly right.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm crazy, right? But
Yep.
it can't be that hard. Like,
And
it takes effort, Robbo, to make it this bad.
It does.
NDIS again. How many inspectors do you think go out and check the providers?
Inspectors?
How many
Inspecting the
inspectors do they
providers.
employ? Just as a rough guess.
Are they able to?
Go out on the whole, just
They
inspect.
actually have people going and inspecting.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
how many do you think?
I don't think there'd be any, given how it's
Well,
going.
You're right.
You're absolutely right.
You're 100%
Oh, really?
right.
Oh, high five!
Not one.
Wow.
So we've got,
So they
six
They
managers.
self-regulate.
self-regulate.
So we got 6 managers for one particular section, but no inspectors checking that people are doing the right thing.
Is that right? And then so I think, and I don't want to give any of the listeners a bad idea to do anything wrong, but I reckon if you sent the NDIS an invoice, they'd probably pay it. Right? Just send them an invoice and say, maybe, it's just crazy.
It is crazy.
No one's paying attention, are they?
No, they're not. They've taken their eye off the ball a long time ago.
What they've done, like the building industry, where they've pulled back where councils used to have building inspectors,
Yeah.
they now self-regulate.
Yeah, right.
Well, they're allowing the providers to self-regulate.
Is that
them.
right?
Oh, yes.
Self-regulate.
Now, Matt, I just wanted to mention to you Alpha Connect and Blacktown ADRA. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, so I had the privilege of getting enough votes to have electoral funding returned to me, so from the AEC. So I think I got about $32,000, something in that order. I gave $10,000 away in fuel relief at on Flashcombe Road there in Blacktown.
Yes, we saw that.
At
Yep.
the Metro. Great
yes,
people
we
at
saw
that
Yeah,
Metro.
that would have
Fantastic.
been that would have went down a treat.
Yeah, it did, and we caused a traffic jam, and everyone was upset. But
Coppers
but-
would have come.
but I tell you what, a lot of people got cheap fuel. We served about 350
Fantastic.
cars, something like that. And we set the fuel price at 78 cents, I think it was, because
Yep.
that was the price the last time we refined our own fuel on shore. So I made a point.
Wow.
It was cheaper,
That's the good
right?
way.
That's right.
Yeah.
So and then the rest of that money, the other $22,000 plus $15,000 of my own money, because we had so many good causes come forward.
Yeah.
We just extended the grant program. We ended up giving away 3 $5,000 grants. One to Love for Australia, which is a family grocery store that actually will give free groceries to people. We gave $5,000 to the Blacktown ADRA, which has a community pantry, and so they give food away, plus they have a counselling service, and Grace there is just...
And I believe they provide food and milk for children. And a little birdie told me that they're currently running very short on people wanting to supply milk.
They're chronically short of milk.
Yeah.
So if people want to make donations of milk to the Blacktown ADRA, they can either get in contact with us through my website or straight to the Blacktown ADRA
Fantastic.
website. They are always looking for milk and other supplies. And and we also gave $5,000 to the Blessing Tent, which operates out of the Alpha Connect community sort of hub, and that is essentially an aggregator of 12 charities run by a gentleman called Pastor Ray, who is an absolute force of nature. He calls himself Ray of Sunshine. He's amazing.
We need
guy.
people like that in the world.
Brilliant, yeah. And they serve the homeless every night from the Alpha Park facility they have. Now the council wants to close that facility, which serves hundreds of people a week who are sleeping rough, who are on hard times, who can't afford, to essentially, eat. And on top of that, they also bring in showering facilities, they bring in clothes washing facilities for people as well. And they do all these things from that place, and they're going to lose that. Council wants to close that down.
Do we know why?
Well, they want to build I think it's an Aboriginal arts centre in its place. And for mine, they're saying they're going to move the charity hub to the sergeant's quarters or somewhere down the way. The problem is it's not the right facility. So that community pantry has storage, it has power, people come and charge their phones there, it has all sorts of facilities
so
that make
it's suitable.
sense.
Yeah.
Correct. It's got a kitchen facility.
Yeah.
So it's got a whole bunch of stuff that they rely on, that people have come to rely on, and the new accommodation they're getting is temporary, and they don't know how long they're going to have that for. And I think that the worst part about it is it's inadequate. It's not going to serve the need. So, for all of this rate rises that they're doing and all this money that they're raising and all this stuff that councils do and all the state government, everyone in Australia thinks that the government helps people here. And the truth is, they say they help a lot, but when you go scratching the surface, there's a facility that the council provides, which is great. And when I first saw it, I thought, this is amazing. And of course, they're going to rip it down. It reminds me of things like Sister Act, right? It's like, how they were back in the 80s, everyone was trying to save something. Well, I think we're back to a place where we have to start trying to save these things.
And we shouldn't have to.
We shouldn't have to.
Providing a service.
It's common sense. It's basic decency. I think that it's great to see community actors. Like, there are so many great people in the community. I met a lot of people giving out the grants, whether it's the sports clubs, whether it's people focusing on youth mental health. We tried to really spread that around to get people active and out and off the iPhones and
of course,
feeding the homeless and feeding the hungry. People think the government do these things, but the government doesn't. It's the community that's doing it, and the government doesn't help. Half the time it gets in the way, and it's a problem.
Yeah.
For all this money we spend, we're not getting good value. We're not getting good value.
So if people want to do something about Alpha Connect closing, do we urge them to write to council and say, that it's servicing a need? What can people do if they now that they know that it's closing?
Yeah, well, look, I think that there is a feedback up on the council website, so they can go there and give feedback. They can certainly write to the councillors on Blacktown Council, talking about how important that is, or they could turn up the schedule that the Alpha Park Connect is on is actually published on the council website. So if you go and get in contact with the various charity groups, or Pastor Ray as well, and just show that support, and help him and the team make the change. We really have to start a little bit of a bushfire on this one.
You heard it, folks. To show support for Alpha Connect, get in touch with Pastor Ray or go to the council website and let them know your feelings on the closure of Alpha Connect.
Yeah, there's more. There's more I want to do in this space. So, watch this space. We have got some ideas, but, these things are really tough. But I think, if we don't start to stand up for the things that matter to us, we are going to lose them.
Absolutely.
Everything's just going to get turned into a high-rise.
Absolutely, 100%. Look, we're coming to the pointy end of the show. We're drawing to a close, and
we've got to have a little bit of fun.
We just Robbo's got his joke, but firstly, I just want to say thank you, Matt, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for
we
having
appreciate, outside views and different perspectives, and you've certainly laid it pretty bare tonight. So folks out there listening, Matt ran as an independent for the seat of McMahon, which incidentally was Chris Bowen's heartland. And going forward, do you intend to run again at some point?
That's an excellent question. The election's a long time away. Right now, I'm just focused on trying to see what the community needs are. Trying to plug some of these holes, getting people talking to each other, getting people connected, and the same sorts of things you'd be doing in your independence. You know what it's like, and just listening and trying to understand the challenges that I mean, McMahon in particular is a massive electorate. It's huge. It's geographically large. There's a lot of
and it's quite a mixed demographic too. Well,
there's like 5 council areas, 5 state seats, I think.
There you go.
It's just this. It's almost like the map of Australia. In the middle, not much. right, around the edges a lot. On the eastern side,
Congested as hell around the edges.
The eastern side's very dense.
Yeah.
You know, the western side is like, you know, places like Horsley Park are pretty sparse. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's tough. But
If you did,
Yeah.
would you run as an independent?
if I did, I mean,
hope so.
again, it's, you know, I think independence, and congratulations to you both as well. You know how hard it is, but I actually think I don't even know why we have political parties sometimes. I think they're so self-absorbed, and they've all got their own problems.
They've all got their own agenda.
The government, when it first was formed around all these people going in largely to represent. Representative government is designed around independent representation of seats. That's what it's for.
That's what it's
Right?
supposed
So
to be for.
fear of independence. I think they're good.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining us.